Hey everybody, it's Gail, and I am here with two kind of sort of heart-shaped pieces. And the reason for that is because I am working on a hat pattern from the 1940s, which I will put a photo of the finished project up now so that you can see it. It's this super cute heart-shaped hat, and I will link for a place to find it in the basement down below the video. So the reason I have two pieces, you don't need two pieces, you only need one piece. Because what happens is you make this heart shape and then you flatten it out on a blocking mat. And then we're going to do a damp steam on it and then pick up the stitching after that. So basically you do the heart shape, you get everything relaxed, and then you just start stitching again, which I really like. I like that it's all one piece because I'm lazy about my ends, as we all know. But the reason that I have this one and I have this one is because the original pattern calls for Chadwick's Red Heart Knitting Worsted, which is a worsted weight yarn. And then it also calls for a 3.5 millimeter hook. Well, it says a 00, but a 00 translates to a 3.5 millimeter hook. So this first one that I did, this smaller one, this is the one I did in 3.5, and your gauge goal is 5 stitches an inch. This measures out to 7 stitches an inch, so it's a little small. It's possible my stitches got tighter as I went, but I don't think so, because if you'll notice, like, I can sort of pop it out and it looks kind of the same all over the place. So maybe a little at the bottom here when I was first starting. But then this one, I went up to a 4.5 millimeter after realizing that this was not the right size. And now this is at 5 stitches per inch, and you can see that it's got a little more body to it. And there's definitely, you know, when I stretch it out here, when I flatten it out and pin it in a few minutes, you know, it's going to make a good heart shape. And this one, you know, bless its heart, one, it doesn't flatten the same way because the stitches are too close, but also this is bulging up in the middle because the stitches are just too tight. And it's rare that I find that I need to up my hook in order to meet a gauge. I tend to stitch pretty snugly. Give me a second here, I can actually put my face on. Hi! I was, when I started out stitching, famously tight in my stitches. And so over the years, I've gotten to the point that I can generally work to whatever gauge is needed with the intended hook. And I think this might just be a case where this is Knit Picks Swish in worsted, which I thought would be a good dupe for the Chadwick's Red Heart Knitting Worsted, which was 100% acrylic. This is not. This is, I think this is woolen something. Oh, it's just wool. It's superwash merino wool. So there you go. And Red Heart yarns in general, even way back when, were always a little bit thicker than a lot of the other standard yarns, in my experience at least. And so one of the reasons I chose Swish was because I felt like this thickness was fairly close to what Red Heart would be. And so I'm very interested in the fact that they recommended a 00, aka 3.5 millimeter, and having it come out so tight. But there may be a trick to it I didn't know. Maybe the knitting worsted for that particular for the Chadwick sub brand of Red Heart, maybe it was a little bit different. You know, this is all the fun of vintage patterns. So I just thought I'd show you that. So I'm gonna go and get the one that is the correct gauge, the 5 stitches per inch. Get it pinned down here on this board, and then I'm not going to film myself doing the pressing process because I rarely do the pressing process, honestly. So I would just like to fuck this up without an audience if I do fuck it up. So I will be back once I've kind of finished with everything and walk you through the rest of it. That was the chair. Hi! Nope, not do that. Hi. It came out so cute. So it's finished. I pressed it, let it dry, kept going on the pattern like it said. So you get the heart shape by working millinery wire under the yarn. And you will notice my heart shape isn't great. That really has to do more probably with my lack of working with millinery wire, which is much bendier than floral wire, but also, you know, it's just one of those things you have to work with it a lot to work with it. And, you know, as you can see, it's very, very bendy, which is great, but that does also mean that it can be a little difficult to get the shape exactly right. The other thing worth note here is that, like I said earlier, I made this out of a wool, and I think that that is accounting for why it's not popping up in the way that it is in the pattern photo. Although also, of course, the pattern photo would have been taken to the best advantage and careful styling of the finished projects to make people want to make it, as we all know. But the original pattern was made in acrylic, specifically Red Heart 4-ply knitting worsted through the company Chadwick's, which is the equivalent today of Red Heart Super Saver. So if I had gone 100% sort of historically accurate on trying to make this, I would have gone with that acrylic. And if you've worked with Red Heart Super Saver, you know it is like the toughest acrylic in the land. And it absolutely would have been, this I think would be standing up on its own without a problem under that acrylic. I don't think I even have any in the house right now, or I would try to make it again because it's a quick pattern. That's a whole other thing. So a couple of other things. My millinery wire was 1.5 millimeter. I think you could go down to a 1 millimeter and get similar results, but if you're curious, it doesn't say in the pattern what size the wire should be. And then the other thing, there are 2 points in the pattern. I'm going to put a photo up on the screen with highlights where I interpreted the meaning of work in the same place or work through the same stitch as basically layering your stitches one on top of each other through a couple of rows in order to get this band here, which you can see in the pattern photo. And then I followed the rest of the instructions down the rest to get the bottom of the hat, and you will notice this is clearly not going to fit on my head, but it's not supposed to fit over my head. It's supposed to balance kind of like that or like this. You know, it's meant to be something that you fit over whatever hairstyle you have. It is a statement hat. I think technically this makes it a fascinator. I don't really know what makes a fascinator. I just work with vintage patterns. I don't know a lot about the difference between hats. But what I'm going to do, I have bobby pins, but what I'm probably going to do, because I looked this up, is buy some, you can get combs that you can just sew into the edges so that you can sort of fit it onto your head where you want. And that's likely what people did when they finished making this hat. They probably just went ahead and sewed combs into it. They might have used bobby pins. It's fascinating to me that the pattern doesn't give an instruction on how to attach it to your head, but that just speaks to the fact that they assume that the people making it would know what to use. You know, the style of the time was tiny hats for everyone, and so everybody knew how to wear tiny hats. And then the very last thing is that I really don't know what to do with my ends now that I have them. But this part of the hat isn't going to touch my head, so I'm not concerned. I tried bending them, twisting them together, all kinds of things, and they kept coming apart when I was working. So probably twisting them together now, they'll hold fine, but I still want to have full malleability to shape it and kind of work on my style here and see if I can't get the heart shape a little sharper. So yeah, it's a great, fun little pattern. It's quick because it's small. Just be prepared to, you know, glue it on your head. So, like I said earlier in the video, I will have a link to where you can buy the pattern down in the basement, along with a link to my blog and all my other places I am online. If you've enjoyed this, as always, please like, subscribe, share, etc. I have no update schedule because that would require having an update schedule. So I'm going to go and move on to the next thing, and I will talk to you guys later.